I want to give you a little history of healing journeys because this is our 20th anniversary celebration. And some of you are new. I want to tell you how it got started and how it managed to continue. When I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 1989, I came from a background of teaching mind-body health to nurses. I had been the director of the Center for Health Awareness. So when I asked so I knew there was more to healing than chemotherapy, radiation, and surgery. And so I asked my oncologist, and remember this was in '89, I asked my oncologist, how are we going to treat the rest of me? Because everything you're telling me is treatment of the body, and I'm much more than that. And he raised his voice. He yelled at me. He said, "Emotions have nothing to do with this." And I knew from my background that that wasn't true. But I thought, what about women who may not know that? If he's telling that to other people, what if some people don't know that? And so I kind of was thinking about what could I do about that. And I was still looking for resources for myself, for how to treat my soul, my spirit, the rest of me, my emotions. And then I went to a conference, which was at the Disneyland Hotel. It was for health professionals, and I was going to maintain my own professional license. And one of the speakers there was Jean Shinoda Bolen. And she's the first person that I heard say that we are spiritual beings on a human path, rather than human beings who may or may not be on a spiritual path. And she talked about illness as a descent into the underworld. She used the metaphor of mythology. And she was speaking just to me. I thought, this is what I've been looking for. She's talking to me. And I think I cried during her entire talk. And at the end of her talk, it was the most immediate, rousing standing ovation I've ever heard, with 900 doctors, nurses, and social workers who stood up and clapped. And I thought, it's not just me. Everybody resonates with this message. People need to hear this. And I made a determination then that I was going to create something that would give that message to those of us on the front lines, to cancer patients, because it was just being given to health professionals that weekend. So that's how the first conference got born in 1994. And I had to do a lot of creative thinking to let people know about it. I had to buy mailing lists. It was before the internet existed. So just to let people know, and we had 280 people at that first conference, and it was magical. And Jean Bolen was one of the speakers, and I think 3 or 4 of you said you were there. It was a magical experience. And so I then formed Healing Journeys as a nonprofit to keep putting that conference on, Cancer as a Turning Point from Surviving to Thriving. And the first 2 years, I did more than one conference a year. I did some in Southern California, and we were charging $200, $199 for the conference. And we gave scholarships to anyone that asked. But our average attendance those first 2 years, at 5 conferences in 2 years, the average attendance was 150 people. And at the end of those 2 years, 5 conferences, I was personally $35,000 in debt, because they didn't pay for themselves. There's a lot of expenses to putting on a conference. So I did a little out-of-the-box thinking and decided, what would happen if we did it free? Let's see how that would work. So in 1996, we did a conference at Stanford that was free, and 1,400 people came. How many of you were at that conference? More of you. So our board of directors of Healing Journeys then decided that it should always be free. Because imagine going from 150 to 1,400, and people could come because it was free. So we've done it free ever since, which means a lot of our work has had to be fundraising. And in the beginning, I would meet with cancer centers, with marketing directors to try to get them to be sponsors, and often got sponsors to pay for it. But it was a lot of work, and I gradually ran out of steam. And cancer centers have just quit doing that, so I can't get sponsors anymore. So this conference this weekend was paid for by individuals. We have one sponsor, Families Can, but all the rest came from individual people who really believe in this work. So about 5 or 6 people paid, one of them $25,000, a couple of them $10,000, because the conference cost $60,000 for a one-day conference. And yes. And the names of those people are in your program, so you can know who they are. And I'm so grateful to them. And one of the reasons I wanted to do a celebration this time is because it's possible that this is the last conference, just because it's become so difficult to raise money and to do it. It doesn't mean healing journeys will stop. It means this particular way of putting the message out will stop. But I've become more interested in, I like the individual connection and really talking to other people and learning from you about how we deal with life-altering situations. And I've been very excited about the book that Kellyanne Turner wrote called Radical Remission. I'll talk more about it tomorrow, but just to tell you, Kellyanne Turner did a year of research talking to people who had spontaneous remissions of cancer. She spent a year traveling the world and interviewed a lot of people, and she found that there were some things in common that they all had done. She decided that there was nothing spontaneous about the remissions, so that's why she uses the word radical remission, because she said they all worked very hard to make it happen. It was not spontaneous. They just didn't do it in the way Western medicine wanted them to, but they were working hard. So tomorrow I'm going to talk more about the things that she found in common, but I'm hoping what I want to do next year is to do a seminar and to just talk about, for each one of us, how to implement those things in our own lives, the things that caused radical remissions, and we can all learn from each other in doing that. So that's what I'm hoping to do next year. I'm going to look at my notes and see if there's something I was supposed to say that I forgot. It's interesting what I forgot, isn't it? I didn't say anything about my personal health, and so many of you have asked me, how are you doing, Jan? So some of you know because I write a blog about my own personal health, because I've been living with cancer for 25 years, and I've had 3 primaries, about 10 recurrences, and currently have metastatic breast cancer, and I am, when I say people say, what are you doing in treatment? And I am in treatment, but not necessarily with Western medicine. I work with a naturopathic doctor, and I mostly am doing what Kellyanne Turner recommended in Radical Remission. That's my treatment. And I'm doing great.